and to test your knowledge, to test your understanding. And once again, to the winners, they're going to receive some great, amazing prizes. So everybody that is still outside, please come back inside as we are going to start. And for those inside, please scan the QR code. Everybody, if you already won one of the prizes, do not participate, please, because we want others to have an opportunity to win the prize. But for everybody else, please, it's your opportunity to bring home the amazing prize offered by the Avalanche Policy Coalition. So you just have to scan the QR code and enter the competition. We need a few players. Come on, come on. It's your last opportunity, guys. I'm telling you, it's an amazing prize. You don't want to miss on this opportunity. Come on. One last minute to sign up, and maybe more people to come in the room, I hope. Everybody who wants to participate, it's your opportunity to do it. There we go. We have a few more players that are ready to test their knowledge. Aus, are you not participating? Come on, you also want to win this. I know you do. Oh, there you go. We have a few players. Tomas, who's trying to impersonate me and doesn't know how to spell my name? I wanna see now, because that's not how you spell my name. You should know better. But it's fine. It's fine. All right, everybody ready? I see a few more phones up, so let's give them the opportunity to sign up. Aus is in. Great. Watch out, because he really wants the prize.
I just want to know who's the bees.
Hello is here. There is bees. There is Nick. There is Satoshi. We have Satoshi in the room. Oh my God. I didn't know that. That's great. Our summit is really getting the best speakers out there. Huh? Amazing. All right. Everybody ready? I see someone still trying to join. Sorry, Tom. Oh, well done. Much better. Thank you. That's actually how you spell my name. Thank you. All right. I think we're ready. Yes? Okay, let's get started. The last quiz of our 2 days of Blockchain for Europe annual summit. This is the fourth quiz. Let's see if you've been paying attention. First question, true or false? MiCA replaces all national crypto laws across the EU. True or false? Does MiCA replaces every national law? Or maybe is there some national law that remains valid? I don't want to confuse people now. Or maybe I do, you know, just to
Who knows?
Throw people out. Let's see. False. Is that false? Okay, next. Let's see. Scoreboard. Let's see who's winning. Aus, yay, is leading. And sorry, Tommaso, in second spot. And DG in third spot. Great. Let's go on with the second question. Let's see what is this about.
Okay, what is a consensus mechanism for? Buying cheap tickets for the consensus conference, generating profits, locking crypto wallets, or getting participants to agree on valid transactions.
I wish it was the first one, but yeah, I think we still have to pay for those, unless CoinDesk wants to offer some. Let's see, what is the right answer? What is a consensus mechanism for? Yes, getting participants to agree on a valid transaction. Well done. It looks like you actually been listening to our debates. We have Levent that is now on the podium. Someone fell off. And Emanuela trying to win that prize. Well done. Let's see, let's see. Next question. Question number 3. It's a quiz. What is the travel rule in crypto compliance? There was a panel yesterday, so you better know this. Tokens must be traceable across chains. Users must check in at the border. Wallets must support maps. Validators must move jurisdictions. Let's see which one is the most correct answer here. What is the travel rule in crypto compliance? Let's see, let's see, let's see. Tokens must be traceable across chains. Indeed, it's all about identification of senders and receivers of crypto transactions, as we heard yesterday. Oh, I think Aus got that wrong. Oh my God, what happened there? It's slow. You're just too slow, just too slow. All right, Zeynep taking the lead. I see you. Well done, well done. Emanuela now in the third spot with 11 in second. Let's go to the next question.
Okay, which one is a privacy-focused blockchain feature? Smart contracts, public explorers, zero-knowledge proofs, or DAOs?
This is something that was also being discussed in our panels today. So if you're here, I hope you were listening. Which one of these is a privacy-focused blockchain feature, right? The others are maybe blockchain features, but not privacy focused. And indeed, zero knowledge proof is a privacy focused blockchain feature. Well done on the 16 people that got it right. Let's see, before we go to the last question, we have a bit of a change in the podium. We have now Levent, Aquara, and Emanuela in the first 3 positions that are trying to get their prizes. Let's see if they can hold on to them with the second to last question.
Yeah,
last 2 questions. That's
two.
mine. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Why is token classification important for regulation? It decides which blockchain the token must run on. It determines whether a token is a legal tender. It defines how fast the token can be traded. It affects how a token is treated. I think this is also understandable. Let's see if people get it right. Is it about the blockchain that a token can run on? No, it is about how the token is treated, probably from a regulatory point of view. Thank you to the 10 people that got it right. Well done. And now, before we go to the last question, we have a new leaderboard again with Levent, House, and Tabulas. What happened, Zainab? We got this wrong? No, I'm sorry. But you still have an opportunity. It's not over. We have DG and Chris trying to get their spot on the podium. Let's see if they can do it with the last question.
Okay, last one. Which of the following is a real-world use case for blockchain tech? Editing Wikipedia faster, tracking coffee from farm to shelf, streaming videos in higher quality, or making sure memes stay online forever?
I mean, memes stay online forever in general, so...
Regardless.
regardless of the blockchain. And all of these are great objectives, actually. I wish it was about streaming videos in higher quality, but it's actually about tracking coffee from farm to shelf. That's indeed a great real-world use case that we've been exploring as well in the panel debates today. So that was the last question. Let's see who actually won our prizes. In the third spot, Tabulas. Who's Tabulas? There we go. Well done. You can go. House in the second spot. And the winner is Levent. Who's Levent as well? There we go. Well done. Levent, House, and Tabulas are the last winners of our last quiz, of our last day, not of our last summit, absolutely. But thank you so much again to Silvia and to the Avalanche Policy Coalition team for supporting the event and for being with us on stage for the quiz. Please join me in a big round of applause for Silvia and for their team. And please, if you've won your prize, now is your time to pick it up. So just go closer to the stage and pick up your amazing prize. And we all hope that you enjoy it during the upcoming Christmas break. Amazing. So now we have done also with our quizzes. We can go back to our program. Our program in the afternoon is pretty packed again. We have a few very interesting panel debates. Just a quick overview. We're going to discuss now about detection, from detection to prevention, advancing cybersecurity and fraud controls. Then we will talk about the trillion-dollar infrastructure play, why digital product passports will define the next decade with the Cardano Foundation, one of our great sponsors. Very happy to have them back today with the CEO on stage in 40 minutes, more or less. Afterwards, we're going to delve into the digital product passport that could be indeed a game changer for the blockchain industry. We're going to have another coffee break, so don't despair, you're going to get some more coffee. And then in the afternoon, the final part of our summit will first see us presenting our new report on blockchain and GDPR. We will then have one last fireside chat on whether Europe is still at the forefront of global regulatory trends offered by Bybit. And then finally, our concluding panel with some members of the European Parliament that will talk about the vision. What is the future vision for Europe? And whether we need something beyond regulation to succeed. So that was a quick rundown of our panel debates in the last part of our summit. Just a reminder that at the end of today, around 5 o'clock, or at the end of the debates, we're going to have here again some networking drinks offered in this case by the Stand with Crypto initiative, which is going to be quite an interesting launch of a new project to really involve citizens and enthusiasts in blockchain to really push for the adoption of blockchain in Europe. So that's great, and we're very happy to collaborate with them. But now, let's go back to our program. We're just on the perfect timing now, and I'm very happy to call on stage to discuss from detection to prevention, advancing cybersecurity and fraud controls. Johan Poleksak from Quant Platform, one of our members, Gert Jenbard van Hardeveld from Europol, and Matthias Bauer-Langartner from Chainalysis. Once again, I have to practice my last name's pronunciations, but in any case, join me please in a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. I actually got yours better than the other. I've been practicing yours, that's why. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. I have to admit, I'm really looking forward to this panel because we've got an amazing topic and we've got two exceptional speakers here today. My name is Matthias Bauer-Langartner. I'm head of policy at Chainalysis. And for those of you who don't know, Chainalysis is a crypto tracing platform, blockchain analytics company. Most of you will know our tools for tracing, investigations, compliance purposes, but we're actually venturing out into fraud prevention, proactive fraud prevention, and also cybersecurity on chain, which we'll probably get into a little bit later. As I said, we've got two exceptional speakers. We've got Gert here from Europol, and we've got Johan from Quan Platform. Could you probably please introduce yourself, Gert?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Gert-Jan van Hardeveld. I work as a cryptocurrency specialist at Europol in the money laundering team. I was previously an investigator at the Dutch Financial Police, and I would like to tell you a lot of different perspectives today, hopefully.
Thank you very much. Johan.
Hi, I'm Johan Polecek, co-founder and CTO of Quan Platform, a quantum-resistant layer 1 blockchain platform, and the director of blockchain technology for MBK Holding. I'll get to that, how these two things combine.
Yeah, so you can see we're going to span quite a wide range of topics, starting with illicit finance. And before Gert, I'd like to get your view on illicit finance and what you actually see also from an operational perspective, from a Europol perspective. I just thought I'll give a quick overview of what we see in terms of illicit finance globally. Here at Blockchain for Europe, we have heard a lot about regulation. Not only in Europe, but actually globally. There is a certain drive towards crypto assets regulation, and more particularly towards stablecoin regulation too. And it has really catapulted also on-chain transactional activity. Back last year, 2024, we've seen record highs of $74 trillion worth of transactions, with roughly half of that in stablecoins. So although stablecoins only make like not even 10% of market cap, it's actually more than 50% of transactional value that is moved. When we think about illicit activity, we pretty much see the same picture. 63% of all illicit activity is transacted in stablecoins, simply because they are a really powerful way of being able to move funds quickly across borders and 24/7. So these types of attributes that are really great for illicit use are also very exciting for illicit actors. A lot of the illicit activity that we see, which actually has plateaued to around $54 billion worth last year, which is a record high. It has been fueled a lot by scam activity, hacking activity, but also by a certain drive of AI-used tech that has not only been sold using cryptocurrency, but also used on chain. And we see a lot of like professionalism and scaling in that space, which is also why, Gert, I wanted to ask you, being part of that operational side on Europol, what do you see in illicit activity on chain? Can you share a little bit of your insight there?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we see actually, surprisingly in a way, so maybe very quick for if people don't know what Europol is, we are the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation. So we get cases from all over Europe and from beyond, and we actually see more and more cryptocurrency related cases. So let's say 10 years ago, we only saw dark web cases or some cybercrime cases, occasional ransomware. Now we see it everywhere. So terrorism financing, you all know about the wrench attacks. But my field is money laundering, and I would say the amounts moved in crypto are really staggering right now. It's basically all in stablecoins, as you already mentioned. And it's from the cartels in South America to oligarchs to Chinese money launderers. Everyone uses stablecoins to move their funds quickly across the world. And in individual cases, we see people with individuals actually that work as over-the-counter desks or in the exchanges, basically, receiving hundreds of millions on their wallets, and in individual cases we have seen billions. So I would actually argue that maybe the number is even higher than that you've mentioned before.
And you were talking about the scale. Do you also see an increasing complexity in terms of what you see on chain?
Well, funnily enough, I do not. For me, it's actually kind of simple. Well, not simple, but I look at the money laundering cases, and we just see, in a way, the transactions are quite simple. So we see funds, let's say you sell a brick of cocaine in Europe, you have a lot of cash. You find someone that swaps cash to crypto, and then this stablecoin usually can be sent back to South America to pay for the initial drugs. This is what we see quite a lot. So these people that swap the cash to crypto, they basically shield the drug criminal. So these are the kind of targets we are also interested in. So in a way, this is not very complex. But of course, on the other hand, we have ransomware, hacks, where mixers are used a lot. 2 panels ago, it was mentioned that mixers are very important privacy-preserving technology. I have a very different view on that. We've seen it being abused at massive scale by North Koreans for ransomware attacks and many other types of crime. So it's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, that's a really exciting topic. Actually, talking about mixes and this ambiguity between the legitimate need for privacy on chain, but then also the abuse for financial crime. We actually see the same thing when it comes to money laundering. While the predicative offenses are getting much more complex, let's say technology enabled. Think about smart contracts that are illicit, that are malicious, that are trying to essentially trick a victim into a phishing attack. These types of attacks, or hacking on CASPs, on cryptocurrency exchanges, these types of activities get much more professionalized. But the second part of it, which is the money laundering part, actually stays pretty much the same thing. There's a few patterns that you can follow on chain, and it's actually, thanks to modern crypto analytics, also quite visible. It's quite traceable as well. Maybe, Johan, can I bring you in? We just said that money laundering is scaling. We've also been talking a little bit about ransomware hacks, and we all know that the threat of being hacked is real, and it's often nation-state actors who are behind that. You mentioned DPRK, and they're really sophisticated. To some extent, I even think they are artists when it comes to crypto transactions, very fast and very efficient in trying to obfuscate funds. When we talk about quantum computing, we're talking about a slightly different set of cybersecurity that I'm typically talking about. When I'm talking about cybersecurity, it's all about hacks and being sure to be less vulnerable. In our view, we even think that because of the transparency of blockchains, what we really need to do is, on top of auditing, we also need to make sure that we actually look at on-chain transactions, because the transparency of blockchains can also show you activity that is very likely going to lead to a certain attack, or you can actually go through smart contract metadata to understand whether or not the contract is malicious or not. So there's loads of things you can do already with on-chain transparency. Quantum computing seems to be completely different. Is it, just like Gert said, is it something that is very simple and it's just scaling, or is it something completely different? What's quantum computing, and why are we talking about it, and why is it a threat for us?
Yeah, so thank you. Obviously, quantum computing is easy and super complex at the same time, but I think it would be beneficial to separate concerns first, to understand what types of hacks can happen and what affects what and what doesn't the other. So, because there's a lot of confusion in the blockchain space about what kind of quantum attacks exist, could possibly exist, and what these affect. So one common misconception is the so-called store now, decrypt later, or harvest now, decrypt later. So this is which could be typically done by state actors and completely doesn't relate in any way to blockchain technology. It's a common misconception. So this is mainly about, and I don't want to go too deep into this, as I said, it's not blockchain related. This is the fact when there is A malicious actor capturing traffic could be a state actor, could be your regular hacker. Traffic is pretty easy to capture, and they store this data with the intention of decrypting it later with a quantum computer once these become available. The problem with this approach is that the victims have no way of protecting against this after the fact. So let's suppose there's a live stream of this event right now, as there is, I suppose. Let's suppose this event was secret. Someone would capture this traffic and listen to it 5 years later, although they are not supposed to do so. So let's put this aside. This is not a blockchain problem. The blockchain problem is about digital signatures. So the previous one was data confidentiality. The problem in the blockchain space is authenticity, which means that malicious actors are able to fake other people's transactions. So essentially, they can start spending each other's money. Now, the good news is that even though we don't know what state actors could possibly have in their basements already in terms of quantum computing, they're probably not going to start with breaking Bitcoin wallets and spending crypto of other people. They are much more into the former type of attack. So, yeah, but basically it all boils down that public blockchains are very severely affected by this problem, and there is no viable migration path for public blockchains, basically. So after a point, you either have to make a very hard decision to burn all the user funds who didn't do the upgrade in time, or basically that's it. You cannot be sure who is spending whose money anymore. Because, yeah, cryptography is a very interesting field, so to say, because even currently, so not many people know this, and I don't want to go too deep into the math, but we just suppose that for every wallet address, there is a private key. Actually, like for every wallet address, there is, I couldn't even pronounce the number, but multiple trillions, like much, much more than trillion private keys associated with. It's just the probability that's so small that we just accept this as a fact. Now with quantum computers will be able to compute the one public key, the one private key from the public key they are interested in. It's a completely different beast.
So basically, if I understand you correctly, the hashing algorithm itself is not in danger. It's the signing of transactions that is
correct.
Problem.
Correct. So hashing is also affected, but not by the scale we would be interested in. So instead of, I don't know, many million years of cracking it, it might become 100,000 years. So effectively, the security is severely degraded, but not to the level that we would care in our lifetime. So yeah, hashing is safe still, we can say. It's affected, but still safe. But elliptic curve signatures and anything which is based on discrete logarithm problem is done.
I think we've got quite a few crypto assets users here, service providers, and also people who hold crypto assets. What do you think it's time to already think about that now? What would you suggest CASPs or users should do right now?
Yeah, we just had an interesting talk in the break, and with CASPs it's a bit different because they will be partially automatically saved because they are like centralized operators. They can upgrade their stacks. They can protect against the store now, decrypt later, like sniffing credentials and decrypting them. Not sure whether that would be valuable in 5 years from now anyway, but this is a little known fact because I see there are still many quantum deniers, so to say, less and less, thank God, but there are still that if you take a program source code today, like written in the Go language, for example, and you use TLS connections, which is like the basic security for not just blockchain connections, but for all types of all types of connections nowadays, then the default key negotiation protocol will now default to a hybrid post-quantum and elliptic curve key exchange. There is a reason for that. So yeah, as for CAPS, many of their components will be upgraded automatically. This doesn't save them from the wallet problem. So they are effectively signing transactions on behalf of their users as custodians. That problem is not solved, and I don't think it's solvable for public blockchains, as I said.
Okay, well. That's going to be interesting challenges, well, pretty soon, I guess, but still a little bit futuristic. Let's go back to today's problems. Gert, you said that there's a lot of stable coins involved in this activity. You were talking about mixes and the complexity of demixing. Tools like Chainalysis, for example, allow to actually trace through mixes already, and we use a lot of AI to make that possible and decrease the amount of manual work that is needed. Could you share a little bit about how do you go about investigations that involve crypto assets? What are success factors? What do you think about public-private partnerships, for example? Is it important to get the whole ecosystem together to effectively fight financial crime?
I cannot share. No, just kidding. No.
I was waiting for that answer all the time.
It was easy.
No. Sorry, I shouldn't make jokes. Anyway, it's super important. Of course, all of the tracing tools that we can get our hands on, we cannot do investigations without, basically. Or maybe in the example I just gave, when it's one transaction, it's possible. But of course, it's almost never just one transaction. So this is one part that's very important. Another part that's super important is our collaboration with exchanges. So we have many exchanges that we as in law enforcement can cooperate really well with. We also have a lot of exchanges that we do not cooperate really well with, so that do not comply with requests, that do not get back in time, that say, okay, even though you have a 100 million hack in, let's say, Germany, our customer that you are interested in is not based in Germany, so we cannot give you any identifying data. And these we see a lot of different type of responses from different type of companies, and I would really appreciate if there was a bit more open-mindedness, flexibility, cooperation with law enforcement. I guess it's also in the end in the interest of the companies to have a safe space, to have less fraud, etc. So those are some of the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, we also work a lot with private-public partnerships, and what we see is that, as you say, information sharing, especially quick information sharing, is key because funds move so quickly. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is on this way from from detection of financial crime to prevention, is that the technology actually allows us to disrupt crime even before it happens. One of the things that we've done is Operation Spincast as an example, where we were looking for a specific digital footprint. In that case, it was approval phishing. So as I said before, essentially a smart contract that would allow the attacker to drain funds from the victim's wallet. Because we knew how that smart contract looked like, we could actually search for it on chain and find all the affected wallets across the globe. We were then working with, I think it was like 17 VASPs, 19 law enforcement agencies, and also stablecoin issuers together to take quick action. In some instances, we were able to freeze funds at exchanges. In some instances, we were able to recover them from stablecoin issuers. And in other cases, we were even able to prevent those users from entering into those smart contracts that were phishing contracts. And that's, I think, a massive shift from just detecting effectively financial crime to preventing it proactively. And there's a few others that I could do. So private-public partnerships, I think are really key.
Yeah, maybe one thing to add, I think it's very good to have these kind of initiatives. And also, usually when something ends up at law enforcement, it's usually too late. So I think there's a big role to play as well for private partners, for industry. I can think of a few examples where sometimes, measures could have been a bit tighter, a bit better. Like, for example, I've seen a case where one individual on an exchange moved hundreds of millions in one stablecoin, received from many different account holders. And the question is sometimes like, what's the legitimate purpose of this activity? It's just shielding others, or is it? So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like questions could be asked a bit stronger on the other side as well. And I know we are not always perfect as law enforcement, of course, but yeah, that's my take.
How much does prevention play a role at the moment on Europol level?
In my job, not that much, I have to say. I do investigations, but we do have initiatives about how to stay safe online. It's really not my remit, so I don't want to say too much about it. But also, of course, publishing about recent trends. This is what we do on a yearly basis in different reports, so it kind of also may help inform people and hopefully prevent attacks or users losing their funds, etc.
You are doing really, really effective investigations as well. Just this week, Crypto Mixer, three servers have been seized, terabytes of data and 25 million worth of Bitcoin actually was seized thanks to Europol coordination between Germany and Switzerland. Actually, I just wanted to say you can also use Slido to send some questions to the panel. I've received quite a few questions already. And also a hint that apparently the sound is not working for all the people joining remotely. I don't know, maybe this is something we can fix. So there is a question for you, Johan, already. Given the growing importance of cybersecurity, and I totally agree, there is a lot of focus on cybersecurity and fraud prevention, what role do you see Quant platform playing once the mainnet is live, Johan?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I appreciate it. So a quantum-resistant blockchain platform which enables post-quantum cryptography from block zero enables use cases which can be trusted even in the post-quantum era. For example, why I said that I also have another role, we are rolling out now a program in the state of Qatar where digital signatures are combined with post-quantum signatures as well, because this is not just going to hit the blockchain, but it's going to hit regular digital signatures as well. So like you have a digital contract with a bank about a loan, and then a malicious attacker could retroactively alter this contract, modifying the amount or modifying the maturity. And when you combine this with a post-quantum blockchain like Quant platform or any other one, so don't want to turn this into a marketing pitch, sorry. So any post-quantum blockchain which has quantum cryptography and block zero enabled, then you can bind those digital signatures onto this blockchain and preserve their authenticity. So this really is a game changer because many, many more industries will be affected where retroactive tampering with digital signatures is a concern.
Do you want to say something, Gert? No.
No, I'm just amazed whenever he speaks. You know, I don't understand. I'm not smart enough for.
Great. I'm just checking if we do have another question here. There is a question around encrypted sensitive data on chain. Let's probably take it slightly differently. So when you, Gert, when you do investigations and you come across, for example, mixes and others, how do you investigate? Is there anything particularly that you would like to highlight or talk about around the use of mixes, privacy-enhancing technologies? Or maybe also, the transparency of blockchains as such, because we often hear, we wish all criminals would use blockchain technology because it's so transparent.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and in a way, it can be true sometimes. But on the other hand, it's also permissionless, borderless, and we don't live in a permissionless, borderless world. Perhaps unfortunate to some people. So this really creates a lot of friction when money is moved in seconds to Russia or to South America or to wherever law enforcement from Europe cannot reach it. It leads to a lot of issues, especially, let's imagine a ransomware attack where tens of millions are stolen and they're immediately moved to somewhere that it cannot be reached by European law enforcement. This is, of course, very difficult. And of course, I'm not saying that we should not have privacy, or it's just, I have to show the difficulties that it can cause in investigations. And if mixers are used, it leads to difficulties in investigations, and same for other privacy-preserving technologies. It does not mean the end of an investigation, but it can be more complicated for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a race, between illicit actors, bad actors, and blockchain analytics companies, and it has been a race since the last 10 years, really an arms race. So would you say jurisdictional problems, time, these are the main pain points when investigating crypto assets, illicit activity?
Yeah, and sometimes also, as I mentioned before, frankly, the lack of response that may be received from companies. Of course, it sounds now like I'm saying it about all companies, which is not true at all. There's many good players in the field, but there's of course also a few rotten apples, as we say in Dutch, and yeah, it would be great if we got better collaboration with them.
Yeah. We do have a few more minutes, and I wanted to open up the floor to all of you. And I think there's even a question right there. Yeah, perfect. I think you'll get a microphone.
Yeah, thank you very much for the nice presentation. I had a question about cybersecurity, because I went to a cybersecurity conference not too long ago, and one of the researchers actually reached out to some of the scammers in Nigeria that were sending these scam emails, trying to find out, well, what was their motivation? Why were they doing this? And what he got back is that these people, they're qualified, there's no jobs, so it's the only stream of revenue that they can actually get. So if they had the option of probably doing something illicit or, find a job, they would, but they can't. And so my question is, where do you find that right balance between cracking down, enforcing, punishing, and creating societies wherein it actually costs more for you to do something bad or to do illicit action than to actually behave responsibly, find a job, and live a decent life, and not having to scam people as a living, right?
Yeah, I think it was for you, Gert. So how do you change that?
I think it's an extremely good question. If I had the answer, it would be, of course, I'm law enforcement, I'm doing investigations. If, in your example, people in Nigeria cannot earn enough money legally, I don't think I can solve it as a law enforcement professional. I think it's the bigger, this is basically the whole premise of criminology. I think you've now opened up, so I'm sorry. Again, I think maybe I'm not smart enough to answer this question properly, but of course there should be enough proper opportunities in society. I cannot fully answer it properly, I think, the question. Sorry, maybe someone else wants to try.
No, if all illicit activities, energy would be used for something legal and productive, I think it would be a better world, definitely. Are there any further questions? No. Cool. Yeah, Johan, maybe a last question to you. What also here, I think is quite interesting. About quantum computing, there's loads of people who basically say before quantum computing impacts blockchain technology, the financial services world will stop. Because these are older systems. What do you say to like quantum computing threat neglectors?
Quantum computing threat neglectors?
Yeah, I just invented that.
Well, just by previous example, what I said, that there is obviously a reason why this is now enabled by default. I mean the protection in normal applications. Also, there's a reason why the White House instructed the National Security Agency to research and migrate to post-quantum algorithms as soon as possible. There is a reason why arguably the most secure messenger signal on the planet has also made the switch, and I could go on all day with the examples which clearly show the direction that this is coming. There's no escape from it. As for how they are gonna disrupt or threaten established financial systems, that's a really good question. Actually, they have much more of an easier task to manage here to do the upgrade because they have a centralized decision-making system, which means if they decide to upgrade, they can upgrade and they can enforce the upgrade, as opposed to public blockchain networks where basically you would need to convince every single wallet holder that, hey, please do this because otherwise we have a big problem here. So I think traditional finance should be fine.
Okay, well, that's at least a little bit comforting. We're coming to a close, so let me just basically sum up our interesting discussion. I think quantum computing is definitely something we should all think about. CAS should think about post-quantum migration to some extent. The main issue will be securing signing transactions rather than the hashing algorithm itself.
Just a small thing to add with the example regarding to finance. That always think about the retroactive effect. So don't consider that, okay, we signed this contract 5 years ago, it's fine because it was fine at that time, so you need to re-authenticate these digital signatures, for example. So there are processes to be done, but it can be done with a 100% success ratio. The same cannot be said for blockchains. So just wanted to clarify.
Okay, cool. Cool, and then we've also heard Gert who told us that financial crime is moving on chain. It's scaling. It's not getting more complex when it comes to money laundering activities, but it's scaling massively. And there's definitely a need for further preventing financial crime rather than just detecting it. I thank you both very much.
Gert, you've got the last word. I have 7 seconds. The very last thing I want to say, if you have any super interesting leads encompassing
in the buffet,
please talk to me afterwards. We're always open to collaborate.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much again, Johan, Gerd, and Matthias, for the great conversation. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Well done, congrats, well done. Thank you so much. All right, so we continue with our program today with a great fireside chat now, organized, sponsored, and offered by our friends at the Cardano Foundation. Very, very happy to have Frederick Regard back with us again this year to talk about the $1 trillion infrastructure play, why the digital product passport will define the next decade. Together with him on stage, we'll have Thomas Mayfield from the Cardano Foundation, and moderating the conversation, Francesco Pagano from Jackala, love it. Amazing. Big round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Grazie mille.
Another Italian voice on the panel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank. I wish I could say I work in money laundering like Gert earlier. That will give me brownie points in any party in Italy. So I don't. More boring, I am a consultant. It is a pleasure to welcome one of the best tech powerhouses in the world. We're going to talk about DPP. Gentlemen, welcome. So first question, we're not going to make them comfortable. First question for you, who are you? What do you do for a living? And especially tell me something that nobody knows about you. Thomas, we're going to begin with you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here with you all. My name is Thomas Mayfield. I have a background in computer security and digital forensics and a PhD in decentralized technology focusing on industrial IoT and decentralized identity. Something you don't know about me.
Something spicy, something sexy.
Spicy. Okay. I previously worked in law enforcement in Canada. So I have something that I can say that you can't, perhaps. And I focused in on gun and gang. So it wasn't tech focused. It was very physical in the field. But a lot of the skill sets and learnings that I had in a very practical environment have transposed with me to a digital one. So there's maybe something that no one knew.
Very dangerous. Fred, same question. Who are you? What do you do for a living? And tell me something that really no one knows about you. We're being filmed.
Well, I have the passion and the pleasure of working with people who are a lot smarter than me, like my colleague Thomas. But besides that, I built banks and funds for 20 years, so mainly in infrastructure. And I think something very few people know is actually this weekend I'm recertifying as a mountain search and rescue. So I do spend some time saving people in the mountains to give back to that part of the community as well.
Man, we can applaud, it's fine. Mamma mia. That gives you brownie points in any party in Milano also. So how many people in the audience know this word, the DPP, Digital Product Passport? Raise your hand if you do. Excellent, excellent. So I don't know if you know, but there's a new sheriff in town for the lawyers in the building. So it's 1781/2024. So it's a new law that affects everything that we produce, everything that we spit out. There's two main principles, and we're going to grill the two gentlemen right away. One is to be 100% transparent to consumers. Good. And the second one is to protect the intellectual property of companies. How can you do that? It's impossible to do that with legacy technology. So gentlemen, maybe we'll start with you, Fred. How can you do it? How can you solve it with blockchain? And tell me a little bit about the Cardano way to do it.
Well, I think there's always many ways you can solve things, but one of the things I pay attention to as an economist is really this fact that when this law comes into force, you actually have to put money aside on your balance sheet and build up liability for the length of the product life cycle. And that can be, very long. If you take a chair or something like that, those things might live longer than the company does. So it actually also changes the way you have to build your balance sheet. And what you could do to outsource this, to basically ensure that there is a digital data repository who is available for the end of time. Well, we heard a little bit about quantum computing before, but to the best of our knowledge, to the end of time, is to put it to a blockchain. And what you basically are doing is you're giving the work to the blockchain community to manage that repository of data to the end of time. So you don't have to worry about that as a company. So that's, I think, is one of those quite unique things where, you know, regulation actually enables business for the blockchain community here.
Yes, correct. And as you heard, so Cardano is one of the few blockchains that is already business ready, so enterprise ready. So maybe there's two sides of the equation in the DPP. Number one is product. So product in the future will need to talk. Will need to tell me where it's from and everything about the end-to-end value chain. So maybe, gentlemen, another question. So how do we put the entire value chain on blockchain, but I want my sensitive data, my industrial secrets to be protected? How do you do it at Cardano? Both of you.
Thank you. Great question. And maybe a trick question, because we have a strong opinion on there are things that should live on chain and things that should live off of chain. You mentioned we are enterprise ready, and a lot of our conversations with enterprise are specifically around this, about trade secrets, about intellectual property, about the willingness to leverage a technology, but have the guarantee that there will not be data breaches or exposure of private data on a chain, because it was encrypted with a post-quantum algorithm, for example, and then is decrypted by an unauthorized actor. So I think it's a balance here on what needs to go on chain to make something verifiable, this verifiable proof approach, and what must remain off-chain. If I can speak a little bit more, and please tell me when to stop, but what we've done and demonstrated, because there's nothing more tangible than something that's real world, that's active today in production, what we've been able to do, and I think we'll talk a bit more about identity in a moment, but we've been able to bridge private permission systems with our public permissionless by just leveraging the identity layer. So allowing that identity layer to provide the proof necessary so you can say with a certainty that this valid record is in fact valid and authentic without having access to all of the granular data. It's similar to a zero-knowledge proof, but I won't go down that rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, correct, exactly. So we need to identify every single thing that we do. Don't know if you know, but one of the most counterfeit products in the world is condensed milk in China. If the stuff is not legit, your son dies. As simple as that. So there's life at stake. So maybe, Fred, a little bit of a comment on the product side and how you do things at Cardano and how easy it was. I mean, you are the helm of Cardano. How easy it was or how difficult? A little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly of doing this with enterprises.
Well, I think the bad about it is that blockchain is a conflicted term. Blockchain, and specifically crypto, is not something enterprises want to deal with right now. It's basically a risk term, and probably also why many of us are here today to talk about it, right? So the first thing we do is we actually refrain from using the word crypto or blockchain or gas fees or stuff like that. The second thing we do is that instead of thinking about what we can do in the future, with specific CK roll-ups or quantum security and stuff like that, we actually are sitting with a situation today where we can use the existing stack to do these things. That means that we can take certificates from a centralized authority, let's say the one who checks if child labor has been involved. We can take certificates from ISO, so the ISO certificates, and we can basically verify those with digital signatures. And by that, we are bridging sort of private databases and established trust institutions, if you can even call it that these days, right? With the trustless infrastructure of a permissionless blockchain. And then you really start to get the best of both worlds, because this is not about making one system ruling them all. It's actually about thinking about how do we fragment everything, but make it interoperable. Because only by fragmenting it, we actually get the privacy, which we deserve, but we also get the user experience by the interoperability. And that's exactly what Thomas was just speaking about.
So another question on product. So, and many of you are entrepreneurs or maybe members of associations that, let's say, govern companies or SMEs. Good, it's exactly what you said. So tell me, 75% of the world runs on SAP in terms of ERP or Salesforce if I want to sell anything. How easy it is for me as an entrepreneur to plug my system, my legacy technology to Cardano. So how does it work? What do I do exactly?
So It starts at the identity layer. We've launched an infrastructure and protocol-based system called Viridian. This is a decentralized identity solution, leveraging protocols called Carry and AC/DC, but it starts at the identity layer. So one system, for example, leveraging SAP or one company working in one side of the world is going to already be leveraging an identity protocol. They have established workflows and standards of operating, and they want to do business with someone on the other side of the world. What you need there is a way to have an identity that is commonly agreed upon in the exchange of data. And this is what we've demonstrated with Viridian, whereby a SAP system and a Salesforce system can communicate with one another, even though the data is tagged differently and presented in different ways. It can be mapped into a common standard and then demapped into the appropriate system. So how do you start? You start with the identity layer. You agree on leveraging an open protocol, like what Viridian offers, for example, and then you start working on how you integrate that into the blockchain. So what we've done to create quantum resistance in our chain already today is we've created what's known as verifiable smart contracts. One of the biggest challenges that have been mentioned previously about quantum is getting access to these public keys. The way cryptography works today is one shares their public key ubiquitously. And once a quantum computer knows of a public key, it can then break the private key. What we do with our identity solution is we only provide a hash of the public key related to the current signing keys. And what that means is there is no public key to be aware of. Now, when I sign something and prove correct ownership and authenticity, there is a hash of the associated public key that is anchored on chain, which can then be verified against. But I don't ubiquitously share the public keys associated with the identity. I simply share a hash of it, and then some of the other protocol specifics called out-of-band introductions. So the question here is about starting with identity and then thinking about how we integrate on chain. So with a verifiable smart contract, it is no longer just the payment keys that activate the contract, but it's also the associated identities or identifiers that are bound into that contract as well. So if I compromise crypto wallets, I still can't execute the contract. I need to compromise crypto wallets, and then I need to compromise the identity piece. But Viridian in itself is also a future-proof system in the sense that we will never be able to prevent attacks. Our keys will be compromised at some point in time. What we need to be able to do is instantly detect a signing activity has taken place for us to know whether it's malicious or not. And once we have identified something that is malicious, we have the ability to rotate out the controlling keys that have been compromised. So every identifier in Viridian is incepted with a current key, which is used for signing, and then a pre-rotation key, which is never exposed, which is used to rotate out the signing key. And that is how you recover and create a future-proof system. So in short, it starts with the identity, and then you extrapolate to what data should go on chain and how you integrate that, whether it's through metadata transactions or the verifiable smart contract, for example.
Maybe I repeat it in my terms. I'm a salesman, so I lowered the bar. So it's compliant with my legacy tech. I identify every single actor in the value chain. Very good. I need to spend a couple of minutes on people. So we saw product. What I need now is people. I need to prove that I need to have me as a consumer. I want access to 100% of the information, and I need to prove that this Birkin bag is mine. So proof of ownership. So how does it work in the market when it comes to what the consumer sees? And how can you show transparency and hide sensitive information?
For myself?
For both of you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I'll go first, sir. So essentially, what is being proposed and the way it is being interpreted from an implementation perspective is you take existing data in the real world and you turn that into cryptographically verifiable proofs. And some of the common terminology or technology to be used is verifiable credentials. Now, verifiable credentials, many people associate them with a diploma from a university or my right to function in a certain industrial capacity, but it's a bit more than that. It's actually verifiable data containers, the ability to put any arbitrary data into a container, sign it, seal it, and ship it across the world digitally, and then unpack it and verify everything that's in it. So from the person's perspective, you can envision a marketplace where you have freedom to choose which wallets you wish to download and leverage, which will then store this verifiable data piece. The key here being that it must be protocol-based. This can't be another platform play. The problems we see today in market about data breaches and systems being compromised. I mean, IBM's report last year was it takes on average 258 days to identify your systems have been breached and to rectify those attacks. So the detectability element is extremely important. And if you are leveraging an open protocol, your information is not siloed into specific platforms, you actually own the data. This gives you one jump ahead of the current problems that exist. So we can't just build digital product passports off of the same types of systems that we use today. We need to really think about the sovereignty of the individual and the identifier associated with it, the ability to verify the whole step through the value chain, but for example, information that happens at customs. Some of that information should be public. Some of that information must remain off-chain and be private, but you can still verify the consistency through hashing and various other mechanisms. But you can envision an environment where you have something that comes out of the ground, that goes through a refining process, that then gets manufactured, that goes into a store, that you purchase, and then part of that purchasing is transferring the ownership of all of that verifiable proof to me, the owner. And in theory, in a scenario where I have a high-valued good that I might have a secondary market on, I then should have that ability to transfer that to you. The only way that can be done ubiquitously across Europe and across the globe is to be leveraging open protocols and create a competitive market.
Absolutely. And it's all about creating really competitive markets. It's really capitalism at its best. No inefficiencies, no fraud, no counterfeit. Maybe, Fred, can we give real-life examples? Maybe one example, the company, a concrete company that you worked with at Cardano, just to make it a little bit more tangible.
Yeah, I'm still stuck with this capitalism at its best. I'm not really sure that regulation and capitalism is two sides of the same coin here, huh? But okay, I buy that. Well, I think this is happening all over the place now, right? So for the reason why it hadn't happened before was really because everybody didn't go from the identity play first. So we were really struggling breaching the centralized databases with the blockchain databases, and we could not trust that. And what we can do now, as Thomas explained, is we found a way that you can use identity solutions, which is not blockchain based, who basically can bridge that gap. And you can then anchor even more trust and then bring that back, right? But I think 2 weeks ago, we announced like a Swiss watch manufacturer, a family-owned business, second or third generation, and they're already building digital DPP products, right? So I had the pleasure of wearing one of these watches, right, who actually has all of that information using the Cardano blockchain in a conform way, also using identity. And then on top of that, this being a very classical hand-manufactured watch, right? It also then holds a digital wallet where you can actually have crypto assets in it. So it also becomes part of a hardware security module, which you're basically carrying around. And then the next level of that, of course, is you can then use that also as a key to sign for identity as well, which has nothing to do necessarily with blockchain. So I think what we're seeing right now is even the really classical industrial manufacturers, which still uses hands and screwdrivers, are due to this regulation upgrading their tech stack and their user experience. And I think this is really amendable.
Absolutely. One last question, and then maybe we take a couple of questions from the floor. So the DPP will get into, let's say, full rollout by 2030. The delegated acts go out at the beginning of next year, and then we have 18 months to comply. In terms of how fast, efficient, scalable Cardano is, are we ready for 2030 from a technological point of view?
Yes, no problem at all. So we have this discussion a lot, right? Transactions per second, and how do you basically cluster transactions, and what about the price and so on, right? But yeah, we can do this. This is not a problem. Now the larger question is the mental capacity of the people on the business side. How do they actually start thinking through downstream the tech stack, but also the business logic, and also the really critical part, how much do I want to disclose? People are saying I should disclose everything, but I don't want to disclose enough, that it sort of is a liability and giving the secret source away, right? And what is too much today compared to tomorrow? So I think what's going to happen is there's going to be some really, really crucial discussions on the business logic, the compliance and procurement, and then the legal side to figure out, what is the best implementations. But from a technology perspective, it's not just Cardano, there's other blockchains who's ready, but the blockchain landscape, we're definitely ready to do this at scale.
Absolutely. We'll take one question from the audience since we have the CEO Cardano and Thomas from Cardano Foundation. If there's any question, otherwise I'll close with one last question. There's no question for the moment. So, gentlemen, for those out there who are listening, watching this, where can we find you? And it's not a threat. Where can we read your work? Where is Cardano active? If you can mention, maybe a couple of things that we can follow, we can read.
So you can go to Cardano.org is the first kind of place. Cardano Foundation has a fantastic website. Some of the identity piece that I spoke about today, you can see at Viridian.id. Also projects in the wild. So the Viridian wallet is available in Android and Apple app stores today. We also provide infrastructure, sandbox infrastructure for those interested in exploring the technology and working on use cases. What else can I say? I mean, we've done some fantastic work with the United Nations, specifically the United Nations Development Program, where we rolled out an identity solution there for different civil service organizations. We've done some great work in the diamond space as well, some digitalization of diamonds, as well as working with more agnostic protocols and processes like the Kimberley process. I mean, the reality here is that the incentives for this, from a business perspective, realistically are going to come from regulation. And I think regulation in the past, some would have looked at regulation as being something that isn't attractive and a concern or a negative. But in this specific space, about creating real transparency and removing some of these counterfeit issues, the role of regulation here is something that should be welcomed. I think there is a conversation, though, about protocols and aligning on protocols before we build out something that then will catastrophically fail. Fred, anything you wanted to add?
No, I concur with that, but I also say, if you ask me where to find me, I always be like, well, don't do that. Ask the people who actually benefit from it, right? So we have from plastics down here, if you raise your hand, right? FC Barcelona has been walking around before. Aquara is down here, raise your hand, right? There's multiple projects here in the space here today who's building and deploying on Cardano, and they've done their research, right? And they've been looking at different blockchains as well, so they will be able to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, plus the user experience, right? I think we're tracking a little bit over 1,000 companies already deploying on Cardano. So I always said, don't just look at Cardano, look at the people who's using Cardano, talk to them about their experience, right? Because you need an unbiased view as much as possible. So big shout out to the people who makes this work.
No, you're right, Fred. Thank you very much. And if you're watching this and you know nothing about DPP, because it's coming, so the people on this stage and Cardano can help. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Fred. Thanks to the organization for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Fred. And thank you, Thomas, for the super interesting conversation. It's always really a pleasure to have the Cardano Foundation here with us. So thanks so much, guys, for being here with us. Thanks so much for the moderation, Francesco. Great stuff. And we continue actually on this topic. So if you also, for those following online, we started talking a bit about the digital product passport, but now we're going to really go a bit more in details. We heard how this is being developed, deployed on the Cardano Foundation network, and so on the Cardano blockchain, and all the different projects that are being launched. And now we take a bit of a step back, let's say. We come back to Brussels here, right? We are in a policy realm. We are talking about the regulation that actually introduced the digital product passport, and we have the opportunity to hear directly from the European Commission again. So very happy to have Pierre back with us. And so for the next panel debate, we are going to talk again about the DPP, Digital Product Passport, and trying to understand whether this is a game changer for the blockchain industry. And to do so, I'm very happy, first of all, actually, to call on stage my new colleague, Erwin Voloder. Big round of applause, please, for Erwin, who joined the Blockchain for Europe team a couple of weeks ago. And it's a great addition to our team. So very, very happy to have him moderate this conversation. And then we have Danica from the Aura Blockchain Consortium, Aus from the BSV Association, and Pierre Marot from the European Commission DG Connect. Thanks so much, everyone. And another round of applause, please, for our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I know it's a little bit after lunch, so we're going to do our best to keep you entertained and get you learning about some interesting things regarding DPPs. My name is Erwin Walder. I'm the Director of Research and Strategy here at Blockchain for Europe, joined here by colleagues from industry and from the policymaking circles. DPPs are a really interesting use case. They, in some ways, are regulated locally but impactful globally. And there's a lot more to them than just batteries and eco-design, which we will definitely get into. So what I'd like to do now is open it to our panelists here to do a little tour de table, introduce themselves, and then we can dive into the questions.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Danica, the General Counsel of the Aura Blockchain Consortium. So Aura is a non-profit organization funded by the luxury industry for the luxury industry. And really the objective is to make blockchain technology easy and accessible for the luxury industry. And we offer a DPP solution to enhance transparency, traceability, and obviously, compliance with the upcoming regulations. So very happy to discuss with all of you today. Already this morning, there were some good hints of the use of blockchain outside of financials, so very happy to discuss that with my colleagues today.
Hello everyone, my name is Ásgeir Óskarsson, but as Tomás already said, it's Aus, it's easier, Icelandic names. I'm the Managing Director of the BSV Association. We're a Swiss-based non-profit, global advocate for the BSV blockchain. We focus on developers, on education and awareness around blockchain, but also just trying to make it as easy for anyone to build on blockchain. And one of our focus areas is the supply chain industry, which is why I'm very happy to be here talking about DPPs. Hope to be enlightening everyone a little bit. So thanks for having us.
Good afternoon, I'm Pierre Marot. I work for DG Connect. DG Connect is a department of the Commission in charge of most of digital files, but not all of them. And I'm working in a unit called Future Internet, but we have, let's say, a sector which is about supporting or making the best with decentralized technology and blockchain. And today, even if I'm not the leader for this file, I will try to give you some input or information about how we progress for the regulatory aspect and policy aspect for the digital product passport.
Thank you. Maybe Pierre, we'll start with you. So from the perspective of digital and data policy, how is the Commission looking at or thinking about DPPs at a high level, and what principles matter most as this becomes a European and cross-border infrastructure?
So maybe to give you a small reminder, I mean, the digital product passport was introduced as part of the green agenda within the previous Commission mandate with the objective to support circular economy. And this initiative was subject to a dedicated regulation, which is called the Eco-Design for Sustainable Product Regulation. And this is where the digital product passport was introduced. And in doing so, there was also the willingness to link with maybe previous initiative which implement something similar to the digital product passport. And this is the case, for instance, for a battery. We have then had a different initiative which have been taken by the Commission to define, in addition to this legal framework, also a methodology and approach to work with all the different stakeholders and to progress towards the implementation of the digital product passport. So in terms of principles, there is nothing really new within this approach. I mean, first is, of course, about digitalization. We are not proposing something for the digital product passport that should continue to be paper-based. So digitalization is one of the principles. Then is, of course, technology neutrality. I mean, we are here to discuss about blockchain, but the regulation has not been designed for a specific technology to be used, but more to be technological neutral. Then about openness, in particular to rely on open standards. And that's something which is let's say, at the DNA of most of the regulation at European level, to avoid any vendor locking or any kind of approach of this like it. Then, of course, simplification. We want also those new regulation not to be just considered as a burden for the practitioner, for the industry, for the customer, but more something that can help them. And finally, I would say that one of the other principles is to have a cross-border aspect, a cross-sector application of the DPP, and this is something which is at the core of our approach.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And Az, maybe turning to you from a different perspective. So, how important is blockchain for DPPs at the protocol level, and kind of can you give us a little bit more information on what the BSV ecosystem is doing in this regard, and kind of how they're using the tech to build out these products and what they're building them for?
Fantastic, yes. So as Pierre said, the law itself does not require DPPs to be built on blockchain, but to be honest, it is the perfect infrastructure layer for it. And there's variable aspects that you need to consider. It's not just the protocol layer, by the way, it's also you need to consider, it's basically what Frederick told earlier, what you have on top of it, the middle layer on top. But I'll go into the protocol and explain BSV a bit as well. So from a protocol perspective, a blockchain, the beauty of it, if it's immutable, it's verifiable, right? And then there's different types of blockchain you can use. You could think of permission blockchains where you can decide who gets to participate. Use public blockchains where actually you can build in certain levels of privacy to get your selective disclosure. You don't need to share everything with everyone, even if it's on a public blockchain, right? So what needs to be done then for digital product passports is, one, it's a regulatory drive with batteries going into textile and electronics. The amount of products that are going to be requiring a digital product passport is unfathomable. It's into the millions, if not billions, right? And these products have a life cycle that is not just a month. No, it's actually, hopefully a luxury product. If I buy a product from Louis Vuitton, I would like it to be with 50 years life cycle, right? So you need a massive amount of data. And that's essentially what we've been doing at the BSV Association, is developing the next generation node software which enables this massive scale. Last year we did tests on our node software that it can go into 1.1 million transactions per second due to unlimited block sizes. And that's the scale that you need to support these things, because then you can start building on top of it, and then you have this single source of truth. So one thing is the protocol itself is the ledger, but a ledger is just a ledger. And as what Frederick said earlier, the key is identity. These are products. This is essentially a digital twin of a physical product, be it a battery, be it a TV, be it a cow. It's a digital twin, so it needs to have this identity baked in, and that's the layer on top. So what we've been doing with our ecosystem and also with businesses is there's companies in the ecosystem that already have them rolled out. Luxury goods is a perfect example because of the authenticity angle, right? And there's art, cigars, wine you can think of. But then you look at the food industry as well. We're working with a consortium around a farm to fork to trace, actually, to connect farmers directly to consumers. Because how do you know what you're eating? And just to go into that example, I was at a food industry last week in Abu Dhabi. I'm never eating chicken again if I don't know where it's coming from. So we need to make sure that this is, one, a regulatory drive, but also a consumer angle. So our role is to support the ecosystem, connecting with businesses, and also make it easier for businesses that want to explore blockchain as a technology to support them in pilot projects, building on that stack on top of the protocol, so to say.
Wonderful, thank you. And Danica, maybe turning to you now. So Aura's been one of the first and largest implementers of this at scale. And it's a very interesting part of the industry that you come from, which is obviously luxury, representing really large retailers and maisons. How is the value approach? What is the biggest value driver that you see for DPPs for consumers based on how it's being used with the products and services with the companies that you interact with?
Well, I think some of the value driver, I mean, first we heard this morning as well, it's not just compliance, so it's building connection with the customer. So you bring, from compliance really to connection to build a new relationship with your customer. So that's very important. The second is a trusted source of information, a trusted source for the origin. You want to know where your product is coming from. You want to have all the traceability information. So this trust is critical. So it also helps to build the brand equity, and that's very important in the luxury industry. Plus, you unlock a lot of the downstream event, I want to say, for the whole product life cycle, which enable so many new services and business circular model. So that's very, very important. So for me, building trust is key, and enabling downstream use case. You have also benefit for the customer in terms of repair, maintenance. So it's much more than just compliance. It's building the connection with your customer and the trust.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And I think to kind of echo some of the other points, I think it really is important, whether we're talking about farm to table, or we're talking about luxury bags, or we're talking about batteries, or whatever. I think it's this total spectrum approach that we have that's allowing us to use data in a way that we perhaps haven't been able to. The fidelity of data in these provenance chains. Pierre, I'd like to turn back to you. Given that you are in Connect and not Grow, where do you see the broader digital governance issues maybe aligning with any sort of DPP rollout? Okay, so is it, we're talking about, like, is it the data sharing? Is it identifiers, governance, registries?
First, about the way this regulation is implemented, if your question is about who is in the lead, I mean, I would like to clarify that there is, it's DigiGrow, which is, I would say, the head, at the head of the DPP and its implementation, but it is really a cross-cutting policy action, which involve DG Connect, but many other DGs. In particular for climate, for environment, etc., etc. So here there is, it's not only something which is decided at the EC level through, let's say, Directorate Generals, but it's really also implemented in a process which onboard different stakeholders at different stage. So the way the regulatory framework is complemented is through a multi-annual working plan, and through this working plan you have different steps, which is to have this plan, then to decide to work on a specific product or family of product. Then the next step is to make a study and an impact assessment. Then if the outcome is positive in the sense that it is worthy to go further for the implementation, there is an eco-design forum, and all those different steps are open to different consultation, and that's opportunity for different stakeholders from the industry or consumer association or service providers to intervene and to have for their point of view to be taken into account. Now, the way we progress is that there are different, through the multi-annual working plan, there are different milestones which have been set up. I mean, at the end of this year, or more probably in the first quarter of next year, there will be a bunch of open standards that will be adopted by the Sensenelec. And this open standard, the draft were already subject to a public consultation organized during the last summer. Then there will be an effort which is also done in parallel in order to ensure that those standards can be also adopted at ISO, at international level. And therefore that all those standards become something which are as large as possible adopted by at the global level. It will remain, maybe I will come back to that, but it will remain a challenge to have a global harmonization about how we see the digital product passport to be implemented. But, and of course, our regulation in Europe define what is done within Europe. So either you are a manufacturer in Europe or a seller in Europe or let's say an importer. In Europe, you are impacted by the regulation, but we cannot impose a regulation beyond our frontier. But in terms of then, through those different set of standards, we can address the different points that you have highlighted. So some concern the DPP system, which is more about the identifier, the protocol, the security, the interoperability, etc., etc. And then we have also in parallel work which is concerning the data themselves, so the passport itself and which data deserve to be put on the data on the DPP. And of course, it's not. I insist on that. That the purpose is not only to have a new digital items, but really for this data, for those data to be exploited, and at first to be exploited by the industry, also to be exploited by market authorities or custom authorities, and also to be exploited by the consumers that may need to have. Let's say to have more accurate information about the products that they use or the way they are built. And of course, what matters also is that in this process, all the initiatives enable new business new business models, to be exploited by the different players, in particular by the industry.
Okay. As Pierre touched on some different points there with regards to standardization, with regards to interoperability, also talking about protocols. Speaking of protocols, you know, there's a lot of developments in the industry now. Things are becoming much more modular, much more composable, and so we start talking about public permission versus public permissionless versus private permission, etc. How do you see these competing influences in terms of affecting or enabling the adoption of DPPs, like in terms of these different ledger constructs talking to each other?
Well, we're at a blockchain conference right now, so we're in a bubble of all knowing the language, and I think that's also one of the issues. We're always talking tech first. We're not talking business first. So permissioned versus permissionless, it's a business decision that they need to make based on their needs, right? So just keep it simple, stupid. Like, it's really a question of thinking business first and not tech first. So I have my opinion. I am happy to share it later, but I do, on this panel, actually want to emphasize that the importance is on thinking what the value is. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this from a regulatory perspective? And then it's just a question of the identity with the metadata and making sure that you comply with regulations. Are you doing it for the end user to build a loyalty program, to create a secondary market, etc.? Or are you actually doing this to create transparency from a community perspective, like we see in this food association that we're partners of? So I think the question is valid, but it's only one of many questions to be answered when you're talking to businesses about this. At the end of the day, the traceability of a product is a need that either the regulator, the business itself, or the end user has, and you need to think from that perspective, and that's how you need to tackle it. So that will lead you to decisions whether you're going to use a permission blockchain or whether you're going to use a permissionless blockchain where you don't store all the data on-chain but only hashes on-chain, or you have on-chain and off-chain storage. That's a design principle that needs to be tackled by the business together with the experts. And I know we have loads of experts here in the room, but we are all talking to each other in this blockchain bubble, right? And I think if you would go to a business industry event, first of all, they just need to understand what a blockchain is. And in its essence, it's a ledger, right? It's an underlying infrastructure, and it just needs to work. And you need to make sure that the value comes to the business and the end user itself. So then you're talking about user experience. And I like what Frederick said earlier, like, you shouldn't even talk about blockchain. You shouldn't even call it a wallet. People are used to working with applications on their phone. You have an application in which you can do X, Y, Z, and it just happens to use blockchain. And once we start making that switch, that's where we're going to see real adoption, because I think the tech talk has been the one that has been impeding us, because it's just very complex to understand, and we need to be, as an industry, be better at explaining what blockchain is and what the value is from a business perspective. So, yeah.
Fascinating. Danica, maybe turning to you now. A lot of what luxury brands do is around storytelling, and is around kind of building this very personal relationship with consumers. And then there's a huge secondary market element in play in many cases, right? Also with, with luxury watches and whatnot. Coming from this perspective, maybe what's one thing that regulators might not understand, or where a blind spot might be about how customers actually view or could view DPPs in the context of their consumer journey?
Yeah, so I think it's first what we said, DPP is not just compliance, it's much more than that. But it can, coming back to what, I mentioned before, for the customer is really having trust in the brand it purchased, making sure it's it's authentic, it's a real one. So for that, the DPP is a very good tool with the product being also authenticated, recorded on the blockchain. So this is a very good guarantee. It's also for the brand, because you also need to consider all the actors. For the brand, it's the possibility to interact with the first purchaser, the first owner of the product, but also to continue the relationship later with the second or the third. And also for this customer, the second or the third, to benefit from repair, maintenance, which they could not have. So authentication is one element which is very important, and transparency, traceability, the whole story of the product. These could be huge impact for the customer in the resale, but also to fight counterfeit. Because before the resale, the first big issue is counterfeit, and having the possibility to have this product recorded on the blockchain, being able to authenticate your product. So you scan your bag, or you scan whichever luxury product you have, and you can immediately it's an instant confirmation. This is a real one, has a massive value for customers.
I completely agree. I think maybe we turn to like an open round of questions now, and you mentioned something about global interoperability in one of your earlier interventions, Pierre. So maybe we turn to this now. I mean, we have different implementations of this that are going to be happening in different jurisdictions, in MENA, in LATAM, in APAC, etc. So what does like a global DPP fabric look like?
But actually, we don't have all the answer today, and it is one of the biggest challenges is how to make the way we conceive DPP in Europe something which is adopted at the global level. And there are indeed similar but different initiatives which are developed almost anywhere in the world, with in particular some countries or regions which contribute a lot to the supply chain of product. And at a given stage, we'll need to see how far we can, let's say, have a real interoperable solution, or maybe further integration, or other scenarios that are not yet defined. What I want to stress is that through the consultation, which are organized in particular through something which is called the Eco-Design Forum, there are already cooperation between European actors and other actors. For instance, I was told that yesterday there was a meeting with Japan representative in order to progress together towards. But there is still a lot of question mark, and we don't have yet the answer. And the answer can also come partially from the industry which is already a global industry. In Aura, you have different players or solution provider which are also present in different markets. Of course, what we expect is to avoid that what we deliver within Europe stay exclusively valid in Europe, because obviously the supply chain are going much beyond Europe. But we have not all the answer for that. Again, there are objectives to open consultation to other non-European players or non-European authorities. There are efforts to promote the European standard also at the ISO at the international level. There are specific standards that concern interoperability which can serve for further progress. But this is obviously one of the challenges of the DPP is to ensure this global harmonization is a long journey. But from the practitioner, we can also learn a lot. Because I would like to stress the fact that what is regulated is not the entire, let's say, effort which needs to be deployed by enterprise, for instance, to provide data for the DPP. Then all those players will remain free to ensure the way they want to collect those information through their own supply chain, etc., etc. So, unfortunately, I have no magic stick or magic answer for right now, but it is something that is going to be further developed as we progress. But for sure, if we are able to deliver according to the timeline which have been decided for the DPP within Europe, we will put Europe in a stronger position than if we go with a completely fragmented approach, and that's the line which is taken so far.
If anybody else wants to...
Yeah, no, I think, agree, of course, globally, there is not everything yet, but it's very encouraging to see that there is collaboration, there are discussions, because, yes, we can have, in terms of the standard apply, the more it's aligned, the better. What is good, from a European perspective, from an industry, we already see that the EU Commission is driving towards more simplification and using DPP as one of the key elements for all product information. So whether it's compliance information, is sustainability, circularity information, how can it be used also for customs? So these, for an industry perspective, will avoid duplication and additional complexity. So that's good, and globally, obviously, collaboration will be critical to avoid too many different, not on the content of the data, because that you can flex and add on your passport, but on the standards which are applied and how it can be interoperable.
So maybe to add to the global aspect, because I just find this case super fascinating, because it's about trust, right? It's about how this data, blockchain at the end of the day plays one role, but it's only, depends also the quality of the data that comes in. I just find this particular use case fascinating. I'm not sure if people are familiar with the Chateau Petrus, which is like the most expensive wine in the world. And apparently, in China, you can buy bottles of Chateau Petrus of years that it was never produced, right? So it's again a question of trust to the consumer, right? So I want to be able to assure that if I pay 3,000 to 4,000 euros for my bottle of wine, that it's real, that it hasn't been opened. And there are solutions for that as well. So yes, this is a local regulation, but at the end of the day, we're all talking global supply chain, global users that are using of this, and actually that's the user having value. And it needs to make sense, because there's also an Italian beer brand that is using blockchain. You can scan a QR code on the bottle and you see in which province the wheat is from for the beer. That's more of a gimmick, because that's not really adding value to me. It's more like, I can see that this beer is coming from A, B, or C, but it needs to add value. So for example, the counterfeit and authenticity of the product passport is then absolutely fascinating, a great use case for blockchain.
Fantastic, and maybe another question. How do we get to strike the right balance between protecting commercially sensitive information and ensuring transparency, especially when we're talking about kind of the movement of goods and their accompanying digital twins in global supply chains?
I'm going to give people a pitch, because you're going to be talking about GDPR later, right? So I'm just going to go very small into that. But it's general best practice. Don't put any personal data, don't put any sensitive data on chain, right? There's off-chain storage for that. There's other tactics to do that. Yes, it's the question of balancing privacy with transparency. That comes back to the initial design question that you raised. And I think we need to look at what's the value. Like at the end of the day, if it's a supply chain where you have multiple suppliers needing access to the same shared set of data, what is it that they actually need to know, need to be aware of, and not? So it's a big balance. I'm worried that with a lot of regulation, that it's also an increased cost of compliance and then a cost for the consumer. I think here there's a good balance struck, but it hasn't been implemented yet, so we don't know yet. So let's see what the future brings. Yes.
No, it's to your point. I think putting personal data or sensitive data on chain is not necessarily something we would recommend or do, and it's finding the right balance, having the right people, having access to the right information, and that's also what you see in the DPP regulation. So your customer or someone going in the shop will see a certain set of information. Then as a company to your client or customer who bought the product, you can enhance all your storytelling, loyalty, and any other personalization to this customer. So that's something else. Plus, obviously, you have the authorities. So whether it's an enforcement, custom, will have access to different information. And it's important. Coming back to your point, it's not a technology or decision. It's a business also decision. What you give access to whom, and you have so many tools you can differentiate, and that's a business call to decide.
I'd like to turn maybe more on the UI side, because you brought up something really interesting, as when you were talking about keep it simple, stupid. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with maybe you experienced the QR code fatigue during COVID, where literally everything became a QR code for everything. How do we kind of avoid that with DPPs? Like, what sort of incentives might need to be built in to ensure a smoother customer journey, and but still keep kind of that ubiquity that a QR code has from a UI perspective? So like to keep it sleek, but not to like annoy the hell out of people.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if you were talking to. So I think we see. I mean, of course, if there is nothing, if it's a static tool, the click will not be there, and the scan will not be there. From the use case we have, where we see the better scan rate, is where you add some utility. So that's where the customer will be more likely to to scan and to use it. If we look at the different maisons we have, one is with the Remova suitcase, where you scan your suitcase, and with your DPP is also attached a lifetime warranty. Obviously, there is some incentive for the customer to scan, but it has to be a live DPP. This DPP is not a one event and that's it, and there is nothing added. There is a life with the product, so you can add different things. You can have also all your repair, your maintenance, or any new storytelling. There need to be interaction. It's how you interact with customer. You can give them some special right, access to some pre-launch of product, but interact. It's if you keep it to compliance, it will be a one click and that's it, and maybe no one will scan and click. If you make it interesting for the customer, there is something in it for them. From what we've seen, it works.
Great.
I don't think we'll get QR code fatigue with this, because the QR code is where the proof of the pudding is, right? It doesn't mean that the information is not also displayed in this beef is local, and you can see all the full evidence here. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing, it also depends on what type of product it is. So I don't buy a luxury handbag every day. I haven't bought a single one in my life, to be honest, only once for my wife. But that's one QR code where I want to know it's authentic or not going forward, right? So I think there's other ways around it. Again, thinking of the end user, who actually, it's about trust. How do you make sure that they trust it? If I see this beef is from is from this farm here, and I then scan it and it's not, then there's an issue. But do I really need to scan it to actually know that that's the case? Or so there's different ways around how you can make it a pleasant experience for the user. Yes.
Okay.
But perhaps along this line, there is a more recent regulation, which is about simplification, what we call the omnibus, and also the strategy for the single market strategy, which is promoting a digital product passport for future regulation. And hence, in a way, it is simplification because we want to build on the work done for DPP to enable to address other regulation and to avoid to have to create another animal or another type of devices. At the same time, it opens the door to let's say, a different perspective in order to update the data, to have a live DPP or the equivalent, or to use different data carriers that can meet the different needs. So it provides a lot of perspective from what exists, what we start to implement with the DPP. And here, if I come back to the blockchain interest for this conference, it's clear, as we heard from the previous panel and what was also addressed by my colleagues panelists, there is a fantastic opportunity in order to manage in a more agile way the cybersecurity aspect, the agility and the dynamic data aspect, the privacy aspect. So we see here a lot of perspective. So just to for people to have in mind that the DPP is not something static which works for a traditional product, but it can lead to a much more sophisticated implementation that we hope will remain quite simple in the sense that we can build on standard and solutions that will continue to apply, but which are agile enough in order to evolve for different purposes. But again, it was stressed by you, but what really matters is that the one who needs to implement the DPP find great opportunities to offer better services or to be able to do their business more efficiently.
Great. We have a little bit of time left. I just want to open it up to some questions from the audience. I have them here, and this one's actually for you, Az. Do you have any reference implementation at BSV for DPPs?
It sounds like a trick question. Yes, we do. So what we've done over the last 2 years is not build out only the node software, but also the libraries and SDKs on top to make it easier for anyone to build. We just finished that and launched it in June. And rather than us bottom up, coming up with how the technology needs to evolve, we're now working together with businesses to involve this. And one of the use cases is with DPP. So there's demos and use cases available that anyone can use. The beauty of it, because it's open source, we were working with, there was a product in Argentina around healthcare prescriptions on chain. It's not necessarily DPP, but at the end of the day, it's something that has an identity and has certain metadata to battle fraud. So essentially, you go with the healthcare prescription, you go to one pharmacy, to the next, to the other. So this is the cost and this is the health issue, right? So now you have them on chain. That was built. That's now open source for anyone to then build on top of. And when we did a summer school at the University of Zurich, one of the students actually took that same reference implementation. He's from Peru, and 7 people died of saline contamination through medicine, through contaminated medicine. Within 3 days, he essentially built a healthcare traceability solution. So this is all readily available for anyone to take over and build the next thing on top of, and we'll be more than happy to support with that. So yes.
Fantastic, and maybe we have just a little bit of time. Maybe last final thoughts from each of you. Danica, if we could start with you.
Yeah, I think from a business or industry perspective, it's DPP seems to be a compliance exercise, but it's really also change management for the companies. It's not just a tech solution. It's not just a compliance solution. It's bringing everyone from the supply chain, from your retail, together. You also have a lot of work to do to get all your data, and that's what we see with all the maisons we work with. How do you get your data readiness? How do you get also your supply chain, your suppliers ready with verifiable and digitized data? So it's a much broader instrument. It's not just compliance, and I would certainly not limit that. It's an opportunity for any company to enhance the experience of the customer engagement, and on top of that, bringing transparency and trust.
So it's really more than just the DPP as a silo. This requires a holistic kind of uplift within the organization to prepare for it. Az?
I'm just going to take the opportunity to answer the question with a big yes. It's a massive game changer. And you see it already in how this event is structured, right? So historically, blockchain was always associated with fintech and digital assets. Now we have a full day that is essentially almost dedicated to non-financial use cases. We have now, this is the third topic on DPPs. It's a massive game changer, and the blockchain industry is ready. Now we need to make sure that the business understands the true value of using this in their daily operations, be it for the user or for the regulator, from a regulatory perspective. It's a massive game changer, and I'm super excited about what's coming ahead in the next couple of years. So yeah.
Fantastic. And Pierre, last thoughts from the Commission?
Yeah, first I will make echo to the fact that it is something which can be a massive game changer. Then, if I report previously about the local aspect of the regulation, but it's a local aspect which represents the largest market of the world. I mean, the European market is the largest one of the world, so any product which is imported is impacted by it, so it's not something which is small things. Then, I would say it is subject to an important effort of coordination between different players and different action. So I don't advise, let's say, solution providers through blockchain to come with their ideal solution that plug for everything. And I invite all of you who want to be active in this field to connect to existing communities. We have one emblematic project which is called CIRPAS, which is now piloting in 3 different or 4 different areas, which is textile, ties, construction material, and electronic products. And if you cannot, because they are quite busy for this implementation, that will give first feedback about how feasible and what are the lessons learned to build such a solution. But there are another initiative which is called related to that, which is called Circular Data, where it's let's say a platform or where you can interact with the different players, not only from the blockchain field, but from the other areas. And that's a bit my lesson is don't expect to come with a magic solution. Interact with the different actors, with the standards which have been already established, the different communities, and then focus and explain what is the added value for the different players, the enterprise, the manufacturer, but also the user, the consumer, and the public authorities about where blockchain provides more than what can be delivered by other solutions.
I think that we've all at some point in our journey in this industry heard that blockchain may be a solution in search of a problem, but I really think with the growth of blockchain and non-financial use cases, we see that the tech really has arrived, it's mature, it's being used by institutions, by brands, by Web3 companies to service a whole different coterie of clients and of use cases. So, thank you for joining us on this journey today, and thank you to our panelists for their insights. And that's all for us.
Thank you so much, Erwin, Pierre, Aus, and Danica for the great panel. And now it's time for our last coffee break of the afternoon and of the day and of the summit. So you can go and get your coffees. We will then be back on stage in 15 minutes. And Erwin and I will be actually on stage together with our advisor, Jorn Egbert, to present you all with our latest publication, a report on blockchain and GDPR and implications for privacy, which is going to be available on our website. So once we are on stage and we'll be presenting that, then you will be able to download the report right away. It is a pretty important report, so we're very looking forward to discuss it in 15 minutes. For now, everybody go and enjoy your coffees. And a reminder that after the presentation of the GDPR report by Blockchain for Europe, we will also then have the last 2, I think, panels of our summit. So we'll just remind you all again that we have 2 more panels after the GDPR report presentation. First of all, a fireside chat offered by our sponsor Bybit on whether Europe is still at the forefront of global regulatory trends. And then we somehow continue this conversation with the members of the European Parliament that will join us around 4 p.m. and we'll have the final panel of our summit that will be discussing Europe, future vision, and whether regulation is enough to succeed or if we need something beyond regulation. I don't want to already give you the answer, but you might already understand what we will discuss at that final panel. In any case, see you all in less than 50 minutes for the continuation of our summit. Thank you all again for being with us.